I found a used contraceptive while looking for a phone charger in my wife's car. That sentence still doesn't feel real when I think it. It sounds like something from a bad drama, some sensational podcast episode, not from my life. But it happened, exactly like that. I was running late for work, my phone was dead, and I figured Megan might have left her charger in the glove box of her SUV. No big deal. Just trying to make my morning suck a little less. I opened the glove box and reached inside without even looking. What I pulled out wasn't a charger. It was a fast food napkin, loosely folded around something rubbery and unmistakably used. Still had that faint chemical scent, one I hadn't been around in a long, long time. And just like that, I froze. We haven't used protection in 7 years. Not since our daughter was born. It was a mutual decision. Permanent. There was no medical reason, no personal reason, no sane reason for something like that to be there. Except one. I sat back in the seat, heart thudding, and just stared at the thing in my hand. My first instinct wasn't rage. It was disbelief. Then that sick wave of realization hit me. Cold and steady. Megan had been with someone else. Recently. In that car. I wrapped it back up, tucked it where I found it, and closed the glove box. The SUV suddenly felt claustrophobic, like the air was different. Like it wasn't ours anymore. I sat there a minute longer, then got out, walked back into the house, and poured myself a cup of coffee I didn't even want. The kids were still eating breakfast. Megan came downstairs a few minutes later in her usual morning rush. Hair in a loose bun, to-go coffee cup in one hand, phone in the other. "You're still here?" she asked, eyebrows raised. "Phone died. Thought I'd work from home." She nodded like it was nothing. Like she didn't have a secret decomposing in her glove box. She kissed Ava on the head, told Dylan to remember his water bottle, and gave me a distracted peck on the cheek. Her phone buzzed again, and she glanced at it fast, too fast, thumb moving with practiced ease to clear whatever notification popped up. A few months ago, I wouldn't have thought anything of that. Now, I noticed everything. After they left, I sat in the quiet house, staring at the mug in my hands. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. If I did it now, I'd get denial, confusion, maybe even fake tears. And part of me wanted to be wrong. I wanted there to be some strange, awkward, even ridiculous explanation. But I already knew better. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't scream. It whispers. It creeps in through the cracks you didn't even realize were forming. The late nights. The sudden perfume. The way her laughter felt a little too forced lately. The way she started keeping her phone face down on the kitchen counter, even when it wasn't buzzing. And now this. A cheap little piece of evidence. Quiet. Simple. Final. That was the moment something in me shut off. Or maybe it turned on. Some deeper part that didn't feel shocked or broken. Just focused. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to watch. Listen. Gather. I needed to know how far this went. Who he was. How long it had been going on. The part that hurt most? That it didn't hurt yet. It just felt cold. The first thing I noticed was how often she smiled at her phone now. Not a full laugh. Just that subtle, closed lip curve. The kind of smile you give someone when you're trying not to smile too much. She'd be stirring a pot in the kitchen or folding laundry, and the phone would buzz. One glance, and her whole posture would change. Softer. Lighter. Like someone had just whispered something private and sweet in her ear. It wasn't for me. I'd stopped getting that version of Megan months ago, maybe longer. At the time, I chalked it up to stress. The kids, her job, life in general. We've all been there. Marriage has seasons. But once you've seen a used contraceptive tucked into your wife's glove box, all those little moments take on new meaning. You start to rewind every memory. You see it all again, but this time, you're paying attention. That Thursday night, I watched her from the couch while she sat on the other end, legs tucked under her, phone in hand. She scrolled through something, smirking every so often, her thumb pausing to type, then erasing, then typing again. "You're quiet tonight," I said, keeping my voice casual. She looked up like I'd startled her. "HM? Oh, yeah, just tired. Long day." I nodded. "Anything interesting on your phone?" A flicker. That's all. A split-second hitch in her breath before the smile returned. "Just catching up on some group chat stuff. Becky's being ridiculous." Becky, her coworker. The all-purpose excuse. I didn't push, not because I believed her, but because I didn't want her to know I'd stopped. Stopped trusting. Stopped assuming honesty. Stopped believing the surface. Because underneath, I could feel it, the weight of things unsaid. The pauses. The edits. The carefully chosen words. I started watching more closely after that. Where her eyes went when we were in public. How often she reached for her phone at dinner. How she started locking it again, even at home. She never used to do that. Friday evening, she had a quick dinner with the girls from work. Nothing formal. Just tacos and margaritas, she said. I told her to have fun. She wore jeans that hadn't seen daylight in a year, a blouse I didn't recognize, and perfume I hadn't smelled before. Something floral and sharp. When she left, I waited exactly 10 minutes before walking out to her SUV. I didn't touch the glove box. I didn't need to. I checked the dashboard. Her GPS history was clean. Too clean. Like someone had wiped it. Same with the call log. Recent calls. Becky, office, Becky. No one calls Becky that much. I went back inside and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the wall clock, listening to its tick like it was trying to remind me. This is real. This is now. Around midnight, she came home flushed and laughing, her hair slightly out of place. She kicked her shoes off in the entryway and poured herself a glass of water. How are the girls? I asked. Loud and drunk, she grinned. It was fun. We should all go out sometime. That stung. We hadn't been out together in months. I forced a smile and nodded. She kissed my cheek and went upstairs. Later, while she showered, I checked her purse. Not for messages, just out of pure instinct. It smelled like mint and tequila. And something else. Cologne. Men's. That was the second moment. Not a knife in the gut. Not yet. Just another piece falling into place. Another whisper in a language I was finally learning how to read. She came to bed damp and warm, curling under the blanket without a word. Good night, she mumbled. I lay there beside her, eyes open, mind racing. This wasn't just infidelity. It was erasure. Revision. Like she was slowly writing me out of my own story, one chapter at a time. And the worst part? She was good at it. The thing about suspicion is that it turns you into a machine. Not all at once, it's subtle. You start counting things. Times, minutes, details. You don't even realize you're doing it. But suddenly, you know that Megan got home 23 minutes later than usual on a Wednesday. You know her showers last longer after late meetings. You know she used to call you during her lunch breaks, and now she doesn't. I started making a list. Not on paper. Just in my head. Small things at first. Missed calls. Changed passwords. The way her tone shifted when she said my name, soft and clipped, like the edge had dulled. Like saying it cost her something now. She said Becky had a new boyfriend. Started seeing him a few weeks ago. That's why she was always texting. That's why she smiled at her phone so much. Funny thing is, Becky's married. I've met her husband. Solid guy, 2 kids. Unless Megan knew something Becky's husband didn't, the story didn't line up. But I didn't call her out. I just nodded. Took mental notes. Friday afternoons became her errand time. Groceries. Target. Last-minute things for the kids. She never used to go out alone that often. Now, it was clockwork. So one Friday, I followed her. Not far. Just far enough. She took the long way into town, hit a stoplight, turned into a parking lot behind a boutique I'd never heard of. She stayed in the car. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then a silver sedan pulled in 2 spaces over. He got in on the passenger's side. They didn't drive off. They didn't even pretend. Just sat there. 2 silhouettes too close. Her head tilted toward him. His arm moved, resting behind her headrest, or maybe on her shoulder. I didn't need more. I didn't stay to watch the rest. I just backed out, drove home, and sat in the garage with the engine off, the heat still ticking in the vents. I stared at the windshield and tried to feel something. Anger. Jealousy. Sadness. What I felt instead was confirmation. The math worked now. She had stopped loving me months ago. Maybe years. But it wasn't just about love. It was the erosion of trust. The vanishing of respect. The rewriting of everything we'd built, silently, steadily, until one day she could lie to my face without even blinking. When she got home an hour later, she brought a grocery bag inside. Almond milk. Bananas. A scented candle she set on the counter like a peace offering no one asked for. How was your afternoon? I asked, voice even. Chaotic, she sighed. Target was packed. I almost gave up. I nodded, watching her unpack. She moved through the kitchen like it was a stage. Every gesture practiced. Every excuse rehearsed. I could almost admire it. That night, I stayed up after she went to bed and opened her laptop. She never cleared her browser history. Probably didn't think she had to. Most of it was harmless. Pinterest, Facebook, emails. But one tab caught my eye closed, but not erased. Private browsing, directions to Lakewood Suites. Lakewood was 20 minutes from here. Boutique hotel. I'd passed it once or twice, the kind of place you go when you want to disappear for a few hours and not answer questions. I looked up the phone number. I wrote it down. I didn't call. Not yet. Instead, I closed the laptop and stared into the dark room, the glow from the hallway night light casting a soft line across the carpet. I sat there and made my choice. I would not yell. I would not cry. I would not beg. I was going to build my case, slowly, quietly, perfectly. I wasn't just her husband anymore. I was the guy she didn't see coming. The first time she went to Lakewood Suites, I let her go. I knew she was lying. Knew it from the way her voice softened when she said she was heading to Becky's for wine and girl talk. Knew it from the way she lingered in front of the mirror, touching up her makeup after already saying she was late. Still, I said nothing. I waited until the door closed behind her, then gave it 5 minutes. I didn't rush. I wasn't in a movie. I moved slow, precise. Grabbed my keys, slipped out the back door, and drove a different route. It wasn't hard to tail her. She didn't even look in her mirrors. Her confidence was blinding her. That's the thing about secrets. Once you get away with them long enough, you stop believing you'll ever get caught. She pulled into Lakewood's back lot, parked in a space near the side entrance. Not by the main lobby. Smart. Discreet. She got out alone. Checked her phone. Waited. A man arrived 2 minutes later. The same silver sedan I'd seen before. He parked, stepped out, and didn't even hesitate. They didn't hug. No touching. Not out there. But they moved in sync, like two people who'd done this before. They went inside. I took a photo of her car. Then his. I didn't follow. I didn't need to see them together. I just needed the facts. I drove home and sat on the back porch, letting the cold air sting my face until it numbed the pressure building in my jaw. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was calculating. Collecting. That night, when she came home, she smelled like cheap hotel soap and someone else's cologne. She padded into the kitchen and grabbed a glass of water, like she hadn't just erased another chunk of our marriage. "How is Becky?" I asked, without looking up from my laptop. "She's going through it," she sighed. "Some drama with her husband. We just needed to vent." I nodded. She didn't ask about my day. The next morning, I bought a notebook. Old school spiral bound. I labeled it, November 10th, Lakewood. 6:57 p.m. arrival. Silver sedan. Male, mid-40s. Dark jacket. License plate, 6LQ. 4, the rest was blurred. I get it next time. I added notes. Duration, return time, body language. Like I was building a case file, because I was. Then I installed a tracking app. Not on her phone, too risky. On the SUV's dashboard system. She never logged out of the dealer-connected app, and the GPS logs were accessible through a hidden admin panel. Took me 2 hours to figure it out, but once I had access, I could see every trip she made for the past month. And there it was. Lakewood. Repeatedly. Wednesdays. Fridays. Occasionally Sundays. Always for 1.5 to 3 hours. Never overnight. Always solo on entry, solo on exit. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was routine. I printed the logs and slid them into a folder. My notebook was growing thicker. I felt like a detective in my own life, and somehow, that was less painful than just being a husband watching his marriage rot from the inside. I still hadn't asked her a single question. Because what was I supposed to ask? "Are you cheating on me?" She'd say no. "Are you seeing someone at Lakewood?" She'd say I was being paranoid. But papers don't lie. Maps don't lie. And soon, I wouldn't have to ask. Because truth has a funny way of running out of places to hide. The next time she went to Lakewood, I followed again, but this time, I brought a camera. Not a phone. A real camera. Zoom lens. Something I could use from a distance without risking a reflection or a shaky hand. I parked across the street, behind a row of shrubs lining a closed medical clinic. From there, I had a perfect angle on the parking lot. She arrived at 6:43 p.m. He showed up at 6:46. This time, I got the full plate, 6LQ for 78. Oregon tags. I snapped photos as he stepped out of the sedan. He wasn't remarkable looking. Maybe mid-40s. Broad shoulders. Receding hairline. Wearing a navy blazer like he'd just come from some overpriced happy hour. He didn't look nervous. He looked entitled. Like a man who's been sleeping with another man's wife and hasn't once considered that there might be consequences. They walked in together. I waited until the door closed, then I pulled out my laptop. I'd already bookmarked her reverse license plate lookup service. Expensive, but thorough. I typed in the number and waited. Name, Ryan Callahan. Age, 44. Employed, Apex Consulting. Title, Regional Manager. The name rang a bell, but I couldn't place it, not right away. I copied everything down and headed home, adrenaline still crawling under my skin. That night, after Megan fell asleep, I opened her LinkedIn profile. Scrolled through her connections. There he was, Ryan Callahan. Not just some random fling. A business contact. A professional acquaintance. They'd worked together last spring on some corporate event Apex sponsored. There were even photos, a company mixer in Salem, Megan holding a wine glass, Ryan standing just close enough for the image to say more than it should have. I remembered that week. She'd come home glowing. Said the event went really well. That she felt like she'd finally been taken seriously in her role. I believed her. I was proud of her. God, I was such a fool. I kept digging. Found his Facebook. Locked down, but his profile pic said enough. Same blazer, same face, arm around a woman I assumed was his wife. A wife. So he was married too. Maybe with kids. Maybe with a golden retriever and matching coffee mugs. It didn't matter. What mattered was that this man had slid into my life like a parasite, smiling and shaking hands at corporate mixers while building a private world with my wife behind my back. I stared at the screen, not blinking. My mouth was dry. I wasn't devastated. I wasn't even heartbroken anymore. What I felt now was clarity. He had a name. He had a face. And Megan had made her choice. She hadn't just cheated. She'd partnered. Built a structure of lies around him, covered for him, carved out space in our life to make room for his. She'd been precise. Careful. But not careful enough. Because now I had him. And I had her. And for the first time since this all started, I felt something almost like peace. Cold, heavy peace, the kind that comes before a storm. I didn't want to guess anymore. I didn't want maybes or hunches or blurry screenshots. I needed something undeniable, something that, when the moment came, I could put on the table like a hammer. So I called a friend. Well, not a friend, exactly, more of an acquaintance from college. Sam. He went into private security after leaving the army. We'd kept in touch here and there. Last I heard, he was doing freelance surveillance work for law firms. I didn't give him details. Just said I needed clarity. Is this about someone close? He asked. Too close, I said. He didn't ask more. Just told me his day rate and what he needed. Photos. Plate numbers. Basic timeline. I sent it all that night. The next day, he texted me. Got it. Give me 3 days. I didn't tell Megan a thing. I smiled when she talked. Slept beside her like nothing was happening. Kissed her goodnight. Said I loved her when she left for work. And every time I said it, something in me grew quieter. 3 days later, Sam called. No small talk. You were right, he said. He sent a file. Photos. Time-stamped. Crystal clear. Ryan and Megan. Lakewood Suites. Her hand on his chest. His mouth on her neck. Her laugh frozen in a moment that said everything she never would. And a video. Only 22 seconds. A hallway camera, probably a nearby door or stairwell. No sound. Just them entering a room together. Her glancing back over her shoulder like she was walking into a secret. I watched it twice. Then I closed the file, exhaled, and sat back in my chair. It was done. The fantasy, the doubt, the what-ifs. They were gone. All that remained now was truth. And in its place, a kind of silence I can't describe, not peaceful, not painful. Just final. That night at dinner, Megan was all smiles. The kids want to do a movie night tomorrow, she said, spooning mac and cheese onto Dylan's plate. What do you think? Pizza, blankets, the whole thing? Sure, I said. She smiled, touched my arm. And I realized she thought she was winning. She thought I'd never know. That whatever this was with Ryan, it lived in the shadows, hers to control, hers to end whenever she got bored. She had no idea that the shadows were watching back. Later, after the kids went to bed, I stepped outside and called Sam. You hang on to the footage? I asked. Locked up, he said. Why? I'm going to need it. Not yet. But soon. Got it. You want it clean or messy? Clean, I said. Very clean. He paused, then said something I'll never forget. People like this, they write their own endings. You just hand them the pen. The first thing my lawyer said was, You did the right thing by staying quiet. His name was Jeff, recommended by Sam. Mid-50s, silver beard, calm voice, the kind of guy who didn't waste time asking how you're feeling. He didn't need the drama, he needed facts. I gave him everything. The GPS data, the photos, the hallway footage, even the timestamps from our shared family calendar, the ones Megan had used to cover her tracks. She was meeting him during school hours, I said, not even trying to sound surprised. Jeff nodded. Makes it worse. Judges don't like that. They see it as negligence. Especially if she brought him around the kids. She hasn't. Yet. Still, we'll use that. And the rest? It's solid. Legally admissible. You've got a strong position, maybe stronger than you realize. What about custody? You want full. I want majority. Weekends for her. No overnights unless she petitions later. And no unknown male figures near the kids. Jeff wrote something down. We'll include a morality clause. She'll fight it, but she won't win. Not with this kind of footage. He looked up at me then. She doesn't know you know, does she? No. Good. Keep it that way. That afternoon, we started preparing the papers. Quietly. Strategically. I moved some money into a private account. I froze joint credit cards. I reviewed the mortgage and confirmed the house was in my name. Megan had always handled the little things, grocery lists, kids' activities, car maintenance. But I'd handled the assets. She never noticed the balance of power. She assumed, like most people in long marriages, that stability meant stasis. She was wrong. I started sleeping better. Not because I'd stopped caring, but because I'd stopped pretending. At home, I stayed the same. I kissed her goodnight. I helped Dylan with homework. I went to Ava's ballet recital and clapped louder than anyone. I cooked dinner. I folded laundry. I asked about her day. She never saw it coming. Not once. One night, she brought up a beach trip. Just us, she said. A reset. I feel like we've been distant lately. I smiled. Maybe we have. It was almost funny, watching her try. As if a weekend getaway could erase months of lies, hotel rooms, and hallway cameras. I agreed to the trip. Then I called Jeff and told him the date. He arranged for a courier to serve the divorce papers the morning we were scheduled to leave. Public location, he said. She'll be caught off guard. But safe. I chose the cafe by the pier. Her favorite. Neutral ground. All I had to do now was wait. It was strange, the calm I felt. Like I'd already left the marriage emotionally and was just wrapping up the logistics. Like boxing up furniture before handing someone the keys. There was no rage left. No heartbreak. No shouting match in the kitchen. Just silence. The kind you feel in a courtroom before the verdict. Megan kept texting me silly memes and photos of outfits for the trip. I replied with emojis. With sounds great. With can't wait. And every time I did, I wasn't lying. I couldn't wait. She wore the yellow sundress. The one she knew I liked. Light makeup, hair curled just enough to look effortless. She looked excited. Maybe even a little nervous, the good kind. Like this trip really meant something to her. Like she thought it would fix things. I sat across from her at the cafe by the pier, sipping coffee I couldn't taste. The papers were in the courier's hands. He was already nearby. I confirmed it an hour ago. All I had to do was wait for the signal. Megan scrolled through her phone, then looked up at me and smiled. I'm glad we're doing this. Really? I feel like we haven't connected in a long time. I nodded. Yeah, me too. I meant it. Just not the way she thought. She reached across the table, touched my hand. I was thinking, maybe this is the start of something new for us. We've both been busy, distracted. It's easy to drift. I let her talk. Let her float in her fantasy of redemption. I even smiled. Then I saw him, the courier, walking across the street with a large white envelope in his hand. Businesslike. Calm. No drama. Just a delivery. He stepped up to our table, looked at Megan. Mrs. Whitmore? He asked. She blinked. Yes. He handed her the envelope. She didn't take it at first. Just stared at it, like it was glowing. Then, slowly, she reached out. Her fingers trembled. What is this? The courier didn't answer. Just gave a polite nod and walked away. She stared at the envelope. Then at me. Tell me this isn't what I think it is, she said. I looked her straight in the eye. It's exactly what you think it is. Her face crumpled, just slightly. A crack. The first real break in the mask. You're divorcing me? I didn't flinch. Yes. But why now? I thought we were okay. I tilted my head. We haven't been okay in a long time. You just stopped noticing. She opened the envelope with shaking hands, scanned the first page, then the second. Her lips moved slightly as she read, like her brain couldn't keep up with what her eyes were seeing. "You hired a lawyer," she said. "I did." "You filed weeks ago." "Correct." She set the papers down like they were burning her fingers. "You blindsided me." I took a sip of my coffee. "No. You just weren't paying attention." Her voice dropped. Is this about work? Is it the stress? The kids?" "No," I said softly. "It's about Lakewood Suites. Wednesdays. Fridays. And Ryan Callahan." Her eyes widened. She didn't even try to deny it. That somehow made it worse. "You followed me?" "No. I studied you." "There's a difference." She leaned back in the chair, face pale. "You knew. This whole time." I nodded. "I gave you every chance. You didn't take them." She looked around, like someone might rescue her from this moment. But no one came. Just the sound of seagulls and the distant murmur of waves. And then came the shift, not apology, not regret. Anger. "You set me up," she hissed. "You humiliated me." "No," I said. "You did that." I just responded. She grabbed her purse like it might shield her. "What about the kids?" "They stay with me. You'll have weekends. Pending the judge's approval." "You think they'll choose you?" "I don't need them to choose. I need them to feel safe." She stood up, shakily. "I can't believe you did this to me." I stood too, calm. Still. "I didn't. You did this to yourself. I just made sure it had consequences." She left first. I waited a full 5 minutes before walking out, letting the wind hit my face as I stepped onto the pier. The air smelled clean. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. The kind of peace you earn. The next morning, she texted me. "We need to talk. Please." I stared at the screen for a full minute before locking it and setting it face down on the counter. The night after she got served, she didn't come home. I knew she wouldn't. Probably stayed at Ryan's, assuming he didn't throw her under the bus the second things got messy. He struck me as the type who'd vanish the moment reality showed up at the door. She tried again later that day. "Can we at least talk face to face?" "For the kids." The irony made me smile. Now she wanted to put the kids first. I didn't respond. That weekend, I took Dylan and Ava to the aquarium. We ate overpriced pretzels, watched sea lions bark at tourists, and for a few hours, I forgot there was a courtroom in our future. The kids didn't ask where she was. They just held my hands a little tighter. When we got back home, her car was parked across the street. She didn't come to the door. Just sat there, waiting, watching. I waved to the kids to go inside, then walked over. She rolled down the window. Her face was puffy, not from crying, from exhaustion. Or maybe from living 2 lives and finally losing both. "I miss them," she said. "I'm sure you do. Can I come in? Just talk to them." I shook my head. "Not without a schedule. Not until the papers are processed." "That's cruel." "No. That's structure. You broke trust. Trust is rules." She looked away, blinking hard. "They're my children too." "Exactly. Which is why you should have considered them when you started sneaking off to hotel rooms." Her lips parted, but no words came out. "Don't rewrite this, Megan," I said. "You already did enough damage without inventing a new version." She didn't argue. Just nodded, slowly, like someone finally realizing they've lost the room. After that, her messages changed. Less pleading. More formal. Updates about schedules. Requests for pickups. One-liners that read like HR emails. And that's when I knew it was truly over. The power dynamic had shifted. She wasn't in control anymore. I wasn't reacting. I was deciding. On my terms. In my time. She called Ryan once during the process. I found out because he tried to get his lawyer to contact Jeff. Apparently, Megan had told him I was being unreasonable. Jeff shut it down fast. "This guy's got nothing," he said. "He's a spectator. A prop in her little drama." I didn't ask if they were still together. It didn't matter. Whether she clung to him or not, she was falling alone. The kids adjusted quicker than I expected. Maybe they sensed it long before I did. The emotional gap. The shift. Kids are perceptive like that, not with words, but with patterns. With tone. Dylan started asking if we could eat dinner at the table more often. Ava wanted bedtime stories again. It was like our house had air in it for the first time in months. One night, I caught them laughing in the living room, curled under a blanket, watching some ridiculous animated movie. And I thought, this is what survival looks like. Not fire. Not revenge. Just continuity. We didn't need her chaos to keep going. And she couldn't unburn what she lit. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. No courtroom drama. Just signatures. Quiet acknowledgement. Jeff slid the papers across the table. Megan signed without meeting my eyes, and that was it. 9 years of marriage, reduced to legal language and initials at the bottom of a form. We left through separate doors. Outside, the sky was overcast, that dull Portland gray that makes everything feel like a photograph left in the rain. But for once, I didn't mind the weather. I breathed it in like it meant something. On the way home, I stopped at the grocery store. Bought salmon for dinner. Dylan liked his with lemon. Ava hated the skin. Funny how those little things start to matter more when the big things fall apart. There was a voicemail when I got home. Megan. Her voice low. Tired. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For everything. I know that doesn't fix it. I just needed you to hear it. I deleted it. Not out of spite. Just because I didn't need it. Apologies come easy when the walls close in. Regret is cheap when it costs nothing. And this wasn't about forgiveness anymore. It was about forward. In the weeks that followed, I didn't tell people much. Friends asked what happened. I kept it vague. Grew apart. Things changed. The truth wasn't theirs to carry. Only a few knew the real story. Jeff. Sam. My sister. You handled it with dignity, my sister said one night. I nodded. I didn't want to be the story she told later, the angry ex. The jealous wreck. That's what she was probably expecting. No, she said. She was hoping for that. Because then she could be the victim. But she didn't get that story. She got silence. Paperwork. Boundaries. That's what real strength looks like. One evening, maybe a month later, I saw her in town. At the farmer's market. Alone. She looked thinner. Quieter. I scanning the crowd like someone hoping not to be recognized. We made eye contact. She opened her mouth slightly, maybe to wave, maybe to smile, maybe to say nothing at all. I nodded once. Just once. Then walked past her like she was just someone I used to know. And that was the moment I knew I was free. Not because the marriage ended. Not because she suffered. But because I had nothing left to prove. No weight left to carry. No version of her to mourn. I went home to the kids. Cooked dinner. Played a board game. Read Ava a bedtime story she asked me to read twice. Said yes both times. And when I finally sat down on the couch, feet up, the house quiet, I realized something. This wasn't revenge. This was peace.